Alright. So we before that, before we tried Express, we built a simple web server, and then we served the static files, and then we modified it to become an application server. Even though the application functionality is not very advanced, right? So that was a reasonably enough case study, complexity enough case study, using which we learned how you can do data parsing from the URL body, and how you deal with asynchronous logic in general, right? How you deal with asynchronous logic in general. And we also looked at creating a basic infrastructure with each of the functionalities extracted into their own components, like data parser, body parser, static server, and etc., etc., etc. And then we built a app engine ourselves, right? We built an app engine ourselves, and that app engine took care of taking the request. Whenever the request comes, it took care of taking the request all the way through the whole pipeline, and make sure that it got processed, right? And then we installed Express Generator, and we generated an application using Express Generator. And the Express Generator gives you a base template for building applications. And once we generated the application, we went to the application folder and simply ran npm install. That passed the package.json file for all the dependencies, right? For all the dependencies, and it automatically installed all the dependencies. Now, the starting point for our application is app.js. So if you look at the app.js, what are all the things that you have? So here you have routes. We didn't implement routing, but this Express engine comes with a routing infrastructure. So you have routes using which you can configure which part of the application has to be executed for a given route, right? Or who is responsible for executing a given route. So you can configure your routes, and then you create the app engine instance, and then you set some configurations here. So views, view engines, etc., etc., etc. And then we use several middleware, right? And we use several middleware. What are those middleware? You have a favicon middleware, you have a logger middleware, you have a body parser for JSON, you have a body parser for URL encoded, and then you have a cookie parser, and this is your static resource delivery, right? So this does your static resource delivery, and then you configure your routes. So your request is passed through all these middlewares one after another, and then if it is not static, right? So if it is not static, then it comes here. It checks whether the route is for this or this. So the routes are all processed, and even the request does not satisfy any of these criteria, then what you do is you simply say 404 error, right? You simply return 404 error. Now, so this is pretty much what you typically do when in the app, right? So in the main app engine. Now let us look at first and foremost, let us look at the routes. So routes are in the routes folder. So if you look at the routes folder, you have index.js, and basically you get the router instance, and then you configure it. You say if a request is made for the route, what kind of request? A GET request. Then execute this function. Now in the raw HTTP, right? In the raw HTTP API, there is the response, server response API. You won't find a render method. So this render method is added by Express in the early stages of your application. Is that clear? That render method is added by Express in the early stages of your application. So now, so what the render does, basically the render generates a HTML and sends it to the client. So using what? Using a template. Where is the template, right? The template is inside the views folder. How do I know whether it is in the views folder or somewhere? Because that is what we have configured in the app.js. We have said in app.js, app.set views path.join parent dir name, and then the views folder. So this is where you are configuring where the view templates can be found, and this automatically searches for this particular view and generates the HTML and sends it. And what is this? This is the data that you are passing to the view. Right? So this is the data that we are passing to the view. And now similarly, so this is for the root index. You also have one more routes created for users, more or less the same thing, right? So if it is, if you look at the app.js, for users it starts with /users, right? For users it starts with /users. So if you make a request just for /users, then this is what will be executed, right? Combine that with this, so /users/. So this is what will be responded. Okay. Now, if you take your EJS files, right? So here is your index.ejs, where you have a basic HTML page, and in EJS, this is the templating syntax. This is the placeholder syntax that you use to say where the actual data has to be substituted, right? Where the actual data has to be substituted. Now you say less than percentage equal to blah 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 blah. Now let us run this application, right? So let us run this application. So let me go to the command prompt. Okay. Now how do I run this? Very simple. All I have to do is, if you look at the package.json file, right? If you look at the package.json file, you have a script by name start, and that says node./bin/ww. So what is there in the ./bin/ww? Let's look at that. So type ./bin/ww. Oh, sorry. We need to go there. So cd type bin/ww. That is wrong. Okay, let us do this. So bin/ww. Okay, so that's the file name. That's the file name. Let us print this, right? So if you look at the file, all you are doing is you are creating a HTTP server, right? And load the application. You load the HTTP module, and then you say where server equal to http.create server, passing on the application. So what is the application? Application is what you did with app equal to express, right? So now the application is nothing but a function that takes a request, response, and next, right? So what is application? Application is just a function that takes request, response, and we pass that. It takes up I'm sorry. Yeah. So it takes a request and response object. That's all, nothing else. So if we do a console.log, what is application, right? You will see that. So let us run this. So I'll say node./bin/www. When you do this, you see, this is what is your app, right? This is what is your app. What is it? It is a function, right? What is it? It's a function. So which is what you pass as an argument to the http.create server. So let us look at the bin/www. Here is a file, right? So http.create server, that returns you the server, and then you say server.listen on port, and then you subscribe to some of the events on error what need to happen, and on listening what need to happen, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Now let us run the application. Now let us run the application. So there's a command prompt. Sorry. And I can simply say npm run start. So when I say npm run start, this will automatically execute that command. Okay. Now we have an application running. Let us go to localhost :3000. How do I know it is 3000? Because that is what is there in the www folder. You see, you test the environment variable for port. Check for the environment variable port, and if something is set there, you take that. Otherwise, you simply use 3000. 3000 is the default port. Now, shall we check if it takes the port that is set? Now, let me remove this guy. Console that. This is right. Now, from the DOS prompt, from the command prompt, we will say set port equal to 9090. Now you say npm run start. Now you will have the server listening on port 9090. So if you try to access by 3000, right? If you try to access by 3000, it will not be able to give you. But say 9090, you will be able to serve the application. So you can configure it through the environment variable, or you can directly do it. So there are several ways by which you can do it, right? So in your configurations, you can do it, right? The way we set app.set, you can also get it using app.get, right? So there also you can set. So there are several ways by which you can configure it, okay? But this template, application template, chooses to go by the environment variables for deciding what should be the port, okay? Right. Now, what we will do is we will use this for building a very basic application, with very minimal capabilities, so we can get to know the full cycle of a request, and right? Okay, so from a request coming in to the response going out, we will get to know the full cycle of it, and then we will see. I'll also show you how you can build a custom middleware. Okay, so what we will be building is already there, but right, just to demonstrate how you can build your own custom middleware, I'll be doing it. Okay, so those are all the 2 tasks for the day. The application that we will be building is the age-old problem for learning anything, right? A simple to-do manager. Okay, so you know the use cases. So you should be able to add a task. You should be able to mark a task as completed. You should be able to remove the task, remove the completed task or one particular task. So a very basic case study. So we will take that and then see how we can implement it. Just give me 1 second, please. I will be back. Alright. So since we are talking about a new entity, right? Since we are dealing with a completely new case, so what we will do, let's start from defining the routes. So what are the routes that we are talking about? So when the user asks for the route is this. So localhost colon 9090 or 3000, whatever it is. But from here, if the user asks for task, if the user says get task, then we have to give him the list of all the tasks, and then he will make a get request for /new. Okay, so when he makes a get request, actually root, so yeah, so we can do that. So task, and this is task/new. So when he makes a get request for /task/new, I want to serve a HTML page where the user can submit the new task, and where he will be submitting it, right? So when he clicks submit, somewhere it has to be submitted. So he will be making a post request to the same URL, task/new. So this will come with the new task. So add the incoming task to the list and redirect the user to /task. Are you with me? And then if you want to make a delete request, you can also do that. So we will say make a post request for task slash remove slash id, right? So if you are doing this, then you can say remove the task with id, with the given id, okay? So remove the task with the given id, and then we will also make another post request. Wherein we will say task slash toggle, okay? So since the id will go in as the body, similarly this will also will do a toggle, and toggle the completed status of the given id, okay? And then we will, so remove completed, we'll also say a post request or slash task slash remove completed, then we will remove all completed tasks, okay, and redirect the user to slash task, okay, and redirect the user to slash task. So these are all the use cases. So these are all the routes that we have to define, okay? These are all the routes that we have to define, and when these routes are processed, our application has to be acting accordingly, right? So let us start writing code, okay? Guys, any questions? Okay, right on. Thank you. Right. So let us start writing the first route. So let me say, just to give a, just to start with, let me take a copy of whatever is there in the users. And create a new route. Be using that as a template. Let us create a new route. So under the routes, new file task.js. So this is where we are going to define all the routes for the task. So get task listing, right? So respond with a list of tasks, right? Respond with a list of tasks. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. But this has to be used when you do a slash task, right? So the slash task is your the base. The slash task is the base for your routes. So let us go to app.js, and we will say where task is equal to route, or you can name it a little readable or what is self-revealing, okay? Because it doesn't say whether it is routes or anything. So what I prefer to do is I'll say task routes, okay? So require and dot slash routes slash task routes slash task, and let us define it here. So app.use for what? For slash, where are all the routes defined? Task routes, right? So we for this we imported the routes, and then we included in our app.use. So our routes become a middleware, right? Our routes become a middleware. Guys, are you following? Okay. Now let us try to access the application and see if this works. So shut down this, reload the application, npm run start. Now go back here, slash as not found. Why it is not found? Did I save the file? I didn't. I didn't save any of the file. I'm sorry. I didn't save any of the file. So run the application, go back, ask for it, respond with a list of tasks, right? Respond with a list of tasks. Very good. Now we have to actually return the list of tasks. We have to actually return the list of tasks. So what we will do, just for beginning to get started with, right? we will maintain the task data in the memory. We'll maintain the task data in the memory. So I'll say where task list is equal to an array containing what? A few objects. What are they? ID is 1 and task name is explore MongoDB. Explore MongoDB, and then is completed is false. Is completed is false. Copy this, paste it, paste it, paste it. Now this is practice JavaScript. Practice JavaScript. Master Node.js, right? Master Node.js. Answer. No problem, sir. So answer what is ES6, right? Answer what is ES6. So these are all the tasks. So this is 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 tasks in the list. Now I want to respond this. So how do I do this? Very simple. If I want to send it as a JSON data, I can simply say response.json task list. That's all. Right? If I want to send raw data, all I have to do is response.json task list. Now you see, did we talk about NodeMon? You remember NodeMon? Did we talk about NodeMon? I'm sorry, I did 3 Node.js programs in the same in the same time span as we are doing this online training. So I don't remember exactly what we covered, what we didn't cover. Okay, I have a fair enough idea, but not exactly the specifics. Right. So NodeMon is a beautiful module in Node. Okay, NodeMon is a beautiful module in Node. What it does is it checks for it keeps a it checks if any of the files in the application has changed. If the application resources have changed, it actually restarts the process. So you don't have to shut it down, restart, shut it down, restart. You don't have to do that. And to do that, right? It's a global module. The way we installed Express Generator, you remember we did npm install, right? Npm install -g Express Generator, right? Where this got installed? This got installed in C:, users, username, app data roaming, npm. So that is where it got installed. Similarly, the NodeMon is also a global module which can be used via the command line. So you typically install it by saying npm install -g NodeMon. Okay, npm install -g NodeMon. So now when you go back, let us go to the command prompt and let us run NodeMon. So I'll say NodeMon. What is that? I'll say ./bin/www. That's it. Now I don't need to shut down the process, restart it. I don't need to do all these things. Even if I want to restart it, I just simply need to say rs and hit enter. It will start. Right. So even otherwise, if it detects any of the resources are undergoing changes, it will simply restart its process. Okay. So it's a very fine tool. Okay. Now, the most important thing is not learning how to use NodeMon, right? Understanding how NodeMon works internally. So over the weekend, if time permits, download the NodeMon repository. Okay, so install NodeMon, download the source code, go through it, and see if you can follow what is this doing. Basically, what are all the APIs it is internally using. Definitely, it will use the file system. Because it has to watch for the resources, and then it has to use a process module so that it can spawn a process internally, right? So have a look at what are all it is using and how it has been created. Okay, and much better is try to recreate NodeMon. Understand what it is doing and try to recreate NodeMon. That would be an excellent exercise. Okay, so give it a shot when time permits. Now let's go back here. Now let us go back /task. Let me hit this URL. You see the complete data has come, right? The raw data has been returned by the server. raw data has been returned by the server. Now, what we want to do? Obviously, we don't want to return the data. There are scenarios where we want to return the data, but at this point of time, I don't want to return the data. What I want to do? I want to return a HTML, right? Now, I can generate the HTML right here itself, and we know it is not the wise thing to do. So, what we will do? We will use the view engine to generate the HTML. Okay, very good. So, what is that view engine going to be? Response.render. What is it? Response.render / pass / index, comma, you pass an object, a list containing the task list. Is that clear? Okay, so we are to create this. We are to create this view. But for now, what we are doing is we assume that it is already there, and we want this view to be processed using this particular data, and whatever is the result of processing, render it to the client. Whatever is the result of processing, render it to the client. Let us go about creating those views. So under the views, let us create a folder. So create a new folder and name it as task, and create a new file called index.ejs. So let us create this. So HTML task manager, and we'll say h1 task manager plus HR plus, we will display a list of tasks. So OL is containing a few LIs. Okay, order list containing a few LIs. Okay, now this has to be repeated, right? So less than percentage for where I equal to 0, I is that list dot length. It will be automatically available. I plus plus percentage greater than, actually open brackets, percentage greater than, and you can say less than percentage, close brackets, percentage greater than, and here we will display the task. So I'll say less than percentage equal to list of I dot name. Okay, list of I dot name. So this is what I want to display. Now let us, you see here, most likely it will restart. Otherwise we will restart it. Let's go back /task. We didn't save the file. Once again, my mistake, we didn't save the file. Save the file. Now it has automatically restarted. Go back to the browser. Hit this. Task /index and views directory is not there. Task views /task /index.js. It is very well there. What is the problem? Slash is the problem, I guess. Let us verify. So now that, right? So we got the HTML generated. From this particular data. Okay, very good. Now I want the user to be able to add a task. So what we will do, let us create one more HTML. So let us say task new dot ejs. Okay, so HTML:5 task manager and h1 task manager plus a div containing or a label. Okay, actually a form. We need a form. So form method is equal to post. Okay, method is equal to post containing a label that says task name, task plus a text box whose name equal to new task, and the submit button where value is saved. Okay, so that's all. This is what all we need. So we have a task manager, we have a form. Action, you don't need to give anything. It will automatically be persisted. It will automatically be posted in the same URL. Label, task colon input type equal text new task. So this is what will go right to the server. The data will go as new task, and you submit it. Very good. Now we need to add this to our routes, right? We need to add this to our routes. So what is it? It will make a GET request. Yes or no? So we'll take one at a time, and then I will write it. So this is our route. Okay. And similarly, we also need to write one more, which is task/new. So let me put this, and then let us write the router. Router.get /new, comma, a function, take request response and next. Request response and next. And you have to simply render, so response.render task/new. That's all. Right? Response.render task/new. Let us see if the file is restarting. If it is not, let us better restart it once, or go back. Task/new, you got an HTML page. Right? You got a HTML page. Okay. Now I'll be submitting this data over post. I'll be submitting this data over post. So let us write a post route. Let us write a post route. So I'll say, let us take the guide here. Okay. Good. Now router.post. Right? See how beautiful the APIs are. I don't have, if I were to write it, what I would do is I will say router.route, pass the get and post as strings, and then anticipate a lot of spelling mistake. Now since there are only a handful of fixed HTTP methods, right? The author has decided to make them as a method, right? HTTP methods as the router methods. So you avoid a lot of confusion, you avoid a lot of ambiguity, spelling mistakes, etc., etc., etc. Very beautifully here. Okay. So now once again, where are we posting it? We will be posting it to the new. Okay. So function request response next, and how will I get the data? How will I get the data? Okay. You remember we did the data parser, body parser. Similarly, you have the body parser.json and body parser.url encoded. So URL encoded is your query string format, right? URL encoded is your query string format. So what the body parser.url encoded middleware does is, if you post the data, if you send the data as a post request, the body parser.url encoded will extract the data, parse it, create an object out of it, and then attach it to the request as a body attribute. Right? Attach it to the request as a body attribute. How do I know? What we will do is, watch this. Before this body parser, or in fact even before this, that will be much better. So before this body parser, I will say console. Okay, not this. App.use. So what should be the syntax of your middleware? The syntax of your middleware is a function that takes request, response, and next. So let us do that. So function that takes request, response, and next. And what do I want to do? I will simply say console.log request.body before body parser. Before body parser, you say request.body. Okay, and then call next. You should never forget to call next. And then after this, we will make one more entry, and here we will say after body parser. This is after body parser, and call next. And let us also save this file. That's okay. Let us save this file. Has it restarted? Most likely yes, it has started. Now let us simply say /task, right? Let us simply say task/task. We got the data, but if you look at here, request.body before body parser is undefined, but request.body after body parser is an object. right? So it is the body parser that extracts the data from the request body and then converts it, parses it, converts it into an object, and then gives it to you. Converts it into an object and gives it to you, right? So unfortunately, we did not make a post request. So if we have made a post request, that data would be here. We will see now, right? So once we post the data, we will see. Now, what we will do, we will even after posting it, right? Even after posting the data, we will once again send the same HTML. Okay, so we will not be persisting it. We will once again send the same HTML and see what happens here. Okay, so let me restart. Go back here. /new. We made a GET request, and here I'll say read one node module edit. Hit save. You once again got the same HTML, but look at this. The request.body before body parser is undefined. Request.body after body parser is an object containing new task. So what is this new task? This new task is the control name. This new task is the control name, right? You know better. So whenever the data is submitted, for the identifier for the data is the name attribute of the control, not the ID. ID is for the client, name is for the server. So this is how the data is submitted to the server. Now, what we have to do? We have to read it. We have the body, right? So we just need to push it to the task list. So how do you do that? Very simple. First, we need to create a new ID. So new ID is equal to task list dot reduce. I will use a reduce function, and what is the first one? Object number. Reduce a function that takes seed comma task. Okay, comma 0. Now here we will say return if seed is greater than task.id, then return seed. No, what are we doing? Return seed, otherwise return the task.id. So this will give you the maximum ID and add one to it. And add one to it. I think that is what it is. Let me just verify once again. Just give me a second. Where numbers is equal to 10, 20, 40, and we'll say numbers dot reduce the function and console dot log arguments. Console.log arguments, comma 0. So okay. So 0, yeah, the first one is C, the second one is your actual data. Very good. So we are done. Okay, so that will give you the ID. Now I will say new task is equal to, no, not new task. Yeah, new task is equal to, this will be a little misleading, but that's okay. So ID is new ID and name is request.body.new task, comma is completed is false. Is completed is false. We will push this to the task list. So I'll say task list dot push what the task. Very good. And now what we need to do? We need to re-render the list. But we want to do this through the client. So I'll say response dot redirect to /task. Response dot redirect to /task. Has it started? It has started. As for new and another new. Okay. So read one node module a day. Hit save. We got read one node module a day. Right? Now once again you can go here and say /new and add one another task. Click save. It comes as one another task. Okay. So I'm assuming that you are following. Let me check in the code. go through it. Oops, sorry. Let me ignore the node underscore modules. Otherwise, it will take a long time. Done. The code is checked in. Take a few minutes, go through it and let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so I'm assuming that you understand. So let us do the toggle part. right? So how do I do the toggle? What we will do, we will suggest me a way by which we can give the user a way by which he can toggle. Shall we use a form and a toggle method, a button, wherein you can say toggle, 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 or can we simply say a click and where he can simply toggle it, right? So either way is fine. So what we will do, shall we use jQuery to do this? So let us download jQuery. Or I already have it, I might be having it. So okay. Yeah, so there we have the jQuery library. Where do I have to drop it? Public and JavaScript, drop it. Okay, so here let us bring in the JavaScript colon source is slash what is it, jQuery hyphen slash JavaScripts slash jQuery hyphen 1.11.2.js. Okay, so basically you should never say slash public because that is internally configured. So you should only say JavaScripts slash jQuery. It will automatically resolve it against that. Let us check if this happens appropriately starting. Okay, very good. Now load this. Now let us check if jQuery is there. Of course, jQuery is loaded perfectly fine. Okay, so what do I want to do? Now for each of this, let us also bring in the task ID so that it will be easy for us to submit the data when we want to submit it. So I'll say data hyphen task hyphen ID is equal to, and inside this percentage equal to task list of I dot ID percentage big bang, right? So list of I dot ID percentage grid bang. So the ID will be automatically assigned as an attribute here. Okay, very good. Now what do we want to do when the document is loaded? $of hash what $of function. So once the document is loaded, I want to do something. What is it? Locate all the li. So $of li. You can be a little more specific also, but here I am not really too much worried about them. And then dot click, attach a click event handler for each of them, and say where $this is equal to $of comma task ID equal to $this dot attr of data hyphen task hyphen ID. So once you get this, you can make an AJAX request to the server and toggle it. Right? You can make an AJAX request to the server and toggle it. So what we will do, we will say $.ajax pass an object, and here I can say URL is slash task slash toggle, and method is posts. And what is the data? What is the data? So data is an object containing ID is task ID, comma data type is JSON. Data type is JSON, and content type is application slash JSON, and success. Okay, so success. What do you want to do when the job is done? This is your response, and here let us simply do a console.log the response to understand what the response is. Okay, so I think response.data will have the data. Let's do this. Now task slash toggle, we make a post request, and what is the attribute name? ID. Okay, now let us go to the task. Let us write a post for toggle. So where is it? It is here. Post for toggle. Take this, go back, and this is what we are doing. Router dot post slash toggle comma a function request response comma what is it? Next. Request response next, and locate the task with the ID. So I'll say where task is equal to task list dot filter of yeah, filter of a function when given a task, and ensure that task ID is equal to % of request.body.id. Request.body.id, and here you say if the return the task.id is equal to the task ID. Now this, the first one will have the task. So if task, then what do you want me to do? You will simply toggle it. So task dot is completed is equal to not of task dot is completed. Once you do this, let us return this guy. Okay, so response dot JSON this task object. Okay, response dot JSON task object. So this is what we want to return. Okay, very good. Now let us try this. So has the server restarted? So restarted. Now let's go get all the tasks. Keep the console open so that you can see what is the communication that happens between the client and the server. Network. Click this. There is an error. There is an error. Post bad request. Why there is bad request? Didn't even make is it because of the data? Is it because of the data? Does it have to be JSON.stringify of this? Let me see if this is the one. So reload this. Internal error. Okay, now let us look at what is the problem. So now that problem is solved. Now here, okay, so all here is an internal error. Parse, oh sorry, spelling mistake. That has to be parse int. Parse int. Restart the application. And we call pass. And we click this. Okay, so you got the response. Right, you see name 1, name explore MongoDB is completed as true. Now click the same thing again. You have made one more request here, and this is completed as false. Okay, is completed as false. But unfortunately, the response.data gives an error. So maybe it is our mistake. So let me go to the index.tjs. It is, let us look at just the response and see what are we receiving. Click this. Okay, so the response is nothing but the actual object. The response is nothing but the actual object. So we got the response. So once you get the response, what you can do? You can actually apply a CSS class depending on whether it is completed or not. So let us define style, and here we'll say dot completed is color is red color, text decoration is line through, and font style is italic, and font weight is bold. Font weight is bold. Allow is equal by. Okay, so let us reload. Okay, now we need to apply that, right? So what you get is the task. What you get is the task. Now anyway we have the closure on the $this, so you simply say $this dot toggle class completed. That's all. You don't even need to do anything else. So we already have a closure on the current element, so we'll simply say this. Not only that, we will also have an li and we'll say cursor is pointer. Cursor is pointer. Now let's go back, reload this, we click this, response is not defined. Now click this, CSS class is applied, click it again, right? Now when I reload this, that's all gone, even though the object is still, the task is still closed. Those two tasks are still closed. So when the HTML is generated on the server side, we still need to do the same thing, right? We still need to do the same thing. So how do you do that? You can write an if. So less than percentage if list of I dot is completed. If list of I is completed, then this is a little messy. This guy is less than percentage, close this, else open this percentage big bang and send this out. So less than percentage, close this, and percentage, like that. And here in this particular li, I will say class equal to complete, right? Class equal to complete. If it is completed, class equal to complete. Now reload this, you will have that by default applied, and you can toggle this, reload it, it will still retain, right? Reload it, it will still retain. Same way you can perform other actions as well, right? So you can make a post request to the remove completed, and you can get all the tasks automatically, completed tasks removed, and then redirect the user to the this one. Okay. Right. So this is a very basic flow of how you can build web applications using Express. Now, can you tell me what can be improved in this code? Anyone? Can anyone tell me what can be improved in this code? Whatever we have written. So I'll check in the code. If you want to have a look at it and tell me in task.js what can be improved. Refactoring. What? So go through the task.js, the routes task.js, and tell me what can be improved. I'll give you 5 minutes time. The hard-coded task list. Okay. That's one. That's one. Okay, now next, no, it works, So that's not it. Look at the task.js, right? What is the role of the task.js? In which folder it is? It is in the routes folder. So its job is routing. Its job is not persistence. You understand, right? Now you have too many things going on here. Number one, logic about how to create a task. Logic about how to toggle a particular task. Logic about maintaining the task list. There are too many things going on in one single file. This is not the way it has to be written. Just for quick, just for quick demonstration, I have done like this. But definitely this is not the right way of doing it. Right? Definitely this is not the right way of doing it. Then what is the solution? You need to have one more folder in your application, something like services or repositories or whatever, right? So you can have services, and inside that you can have a new file called taskservice.js and push whatever you do here inside the task service. So this will go in here. This will go in here and you return or not return. So you say module.exports is equal to an object. Module.exports is equal to an object where getAll will return task list dot slice of 0. Basically, I am just creating a new new array and returning it. And then add is a function. Take the task name and do everything about it. Okay, and then toggle is a function. Take the task ID and whatever you want to do here, and then return this. Now let us look at the task.js. Whatever we do in new, right? New ID, blah 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 blah. Task list dot push. All these things should happen here. All these things should happen here. Now new task is this, task list dot push, and you take the task name, right? So this is the task name. This is the task name. And similarly, let us also do the toggle. So this is the task name, request.body. I'll come back to that. So let us take this guy. Now this is task ID, right? So let's go back here, toggle, paste it, and everything has to go here. Task ID is equal to, you get it as passed, so we don't need to do anything, and you don't need to say response.json. So this has to be done there. You can return the task, right? You can return the task. So you can here, what you can do, you can first let us load the task service. So I'll say task service is equal to require from where? From // services / task service .js. Load this, and then what is our task list? You can actually do this. So you can say task service .getAll. Right? Very simple, straightforward, just one line. Get all these things and then return it. And here you simply say task service dot add the request dot body dot new task and do this, right? And then redirect to this. And toggle is where task ID is equal to % of request dot body dot ID, and then task service dot toggle the task ID. This will be returned, right? So where task is equal to this, and then simply say response.json of this particular task. Now you see this, the router is void of all those complexities. All it does is it receives the request and then delegates the responsibility to someone else who actually knows how to deal with these actions, right? So now it is restarting. Let us check if this works. So we'll say localhost 4090/task. Works perfectly fine, right? Works perfectly fine. Reloaded, loads perfectly fine. Now we have the complete complexity of adding, modifying, etc., 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 going into a separate task service. Now, if you want to talk to a database, all you need to do is you don't need to touch the router. You just need to modify only the task list. Is that clear? Very good. Now, how to write our own middleware? Right? So a simple use case that I can think of for writing a middleware can be maintaining sessions, right? So how you want to maintain your session, okay? What we will do, let me create a new file, new folder. This will be middlewares. This contains a new file, sessionstore.js. Okay, sessionstore.js. Okay. Now, what do I want to do here? So, what is the logic? What is the logic for maintaining a session? Let us look at this. To-do.txt. So, if the incoming request, if the request has a cookie session ID, if the request has a cookie session ID, locate the session object and attach it to request.session. Else, create a new session ID and session object, add them to the store and attach, create, write a session ID cookie to the response and add the add the session to request.session. Add the session to request.session. So this is the logic. So we check if the incoming request carries a session ID. If it carries a session ID, you locate it in your current store, right? You locate it in your current store. If it does not contain a session ID, you create a new session ID, a session store object, and then attach it. That's all. Pretty much this is what all you do. Okay. Now in the session store, what is our store? So where store is equal to an empty object. Okay. The store is our empty object. Function get new session ID. Okay, get new session ID, and I'm going to use what to say, not so safe logic for creating a session. I'm going to use a timestamp. Okay, in real time you might want to generate a new GUID or use your own logic for generating a random unique session ID. Okay. Okay, so here I am simply going to return the new date dot now. Right? I'm simply going to return date dot now. So this will give me a timestamp that I can use. And we will also say function get session object for session ID. This will return check if the store if it exists. So if type of store of session ID. If this exists, then is equal to undefined. If it doesn't exist, then create one. So session store of session ID. Actually, let us write one more function. So function does session exists. Session exists. If session exists for session ID, we will simply say return not of store of session ID. Okay, so that will return you true or false. And then here, if session exists, if not session exists of session ID, then what do I want to do? I will say session ID equal to a new object and return store of session ID and return a store of session ID. Okay. Now what do I want to do? I will say module.exports is equal to a function that takes request, response, and next. Right? And next. And here we will get the session ID. So how do we get the session ID? We will check where session ID cookie is equal to key value is equal to request dot cookies dot, I think it is request dot cookies dot get. 1 second. Express. Look at this. So if you look at the documentation request, you will find an API for cookie. So request dot cookies, right? Request dot cookies of this. Okay, so request dot cookies of session ID. Okay, if it exists. So if session ID cookie value and session exists of session ID cookie value, then we will do something. What is that we will do? We will return the session. So I'll say request dot session is equal to get session object for session ID cookie value. Okay, I'll say toString because it will be in string format. So I'll say toString get session ID, and then we will simply call else. What do we want to do? Otherwise, we will sorry, I messed up here. If and session exists, so this is not session exists. If session exists, then get session for object. Get session for object. Okay, so we will simply do this. Actually, this simplifies a lot. Else we will have to get the new session ID, where new session ID is equal to get new session ID, and then response dot cookies off. Okay, so you can write a cookie using the response object. So take the response. You have a cookie method, just the cookie method. You pass the name and the value. Okay, you pass the name and the value, and the options contain Boolean flags that cookie must be accessible only by the web server. And message path secure signed, expires date of the cookie in GMT. If not specified or set to 0, creates a session cookie. So if you don't specify it, it creates a session cookie. So now we'll say response.cookies of new session ID comma new session ID. Okay, and then new session ID, and we will say store of new session ID is equal to an empty object. Store of new session ID is equal to an empty object. And now let us request dot session is equal to get session object for new session ID and call next. Now we have a session store available, and in our app.js, let us add that. And because we have a dependency on the cookie, ours should be added after the cookie parser, body parser. So here I'll say, this is ridiculous. So you can import it in any sequence, but you should add it after this one. So we'll say a custom middleware, right? Custom middleware. I can say where session storage is equal to dot slash middleware slash session store dot slash middleware slash session store .js. This will be the function, and what we can do after you load body parser, cookie parser. After you load the cookie parser, you simply say app.use session storage. App.use session storage. Okay. Now, what we will do, we will write one simple middleware. Okay. So we will write one simple middleware where we will track the number of requests made by a particular user. Okay, we will track the number of requests made by a particular user. So I'll simply say here tracks the user request count. Here we'll simply say app.use a function request comma response comma next. Okay, and here I'll say if request dot session dot request count exists. Okay, if request dot session count dot if it does not exist, then request dot session dot request count equal to we'll start with 0, and then we will increment this. So request dot session dot request count plus plus, and then I'll say console.log user request count is equal to comma request dot session dot request count. Okay, that's it. So this is what all it takes. Now let us go back to the application. Oops, application crashed. What is the problem? Error, request middleware functions app.use. Where is it? Somewhere so session storage. require, sorry, require. Okay, now it has started. Let us go to the application. Now, okay, object has no method, cookies. Response has no method cookies, like response.cookie off. It's not cookies. Session store response.cookie off. Yeah, started. Let's go reload this. We got, okay. So now, okay, so it ended right here itself. Maybe what we need to do is we should add it in the top, because after the static resources are served, it doesn't come here. Okay, so this has to go in at the top. So after you use the session storage, put this, save this, and application restarted. Let's go slash task. Oops, we didn't call the next. See, if you forget to call the next, the application will have. So we'll call next, save this, go back, reload it. Now you got it. Now it says user request counters 2 and then request counters 3. What are they? Number 1 is we made a request for /task and then JavaScript jQuery and then favicon. It tracks it 1, 2, 3. Now you once again ask for it, you will get 4, 5. Are you with me? Right? So you are tracking the number of times the request is made, 4 and 5. But now the same thing, if you go to Firefox, hit the URL, you will get it, but that will be 1, 2, 3. It will start from 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you with me? You understand? So that session ID, this session ID is different from this session ID. Now create an incognito mode and hit enter. You'll find that this starts from 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. Are you with me? Right? So if the cookie is not there, then it will automatically initiate a new session and keep incrementing the value. Right? Keep incrementing the value. So whatever you want to maintain across the user session, you can put it right there in the session object and get it as and when you want it and process it. So when the user says sign off, right? When the user says sign off, probably you can just remove the cookie. So you can set the expires to a past date and it will automatically be removed from the client. Is it clear? So this is how you can create your own middleware. I tried to bring in some some decent logic here, but this could also be written in a much better way. Okay, so this can be refactored into a much better way. I'll refactor it and later check in the code. So I didn't want to waste thinking about the logic and refactoring. I just wanted to implement it and quickly show it to you. Any questions? I'll check in the code, go through it, and let me know if you have any questions. Okay. So I have a small obligation. If you don't mind, guys, I want to wind up now. I'm a little too tired now. So we'll wind up now. You go through this and try to complete this use cases, the remove completion, remove, etc. And try to implement authentication and authorization. Right? I know there are module guys available, but you try to write something of your own and see how you can get it done. Okay. We'll meet on Monday, and Monday we will look at how you can do network programming in Node.js. Is that okay? Right. Thank you so much. I will check in this code. I mean, the code is already checked in, and I'm sorry I forgot to upload the video, and then later today morning someone called me and said no, I didn't upload the video. So I'll upload the video by tonight. Once the conversion is done, I'll upload the video. Okay. Do you guys find the discussions useful? Fiber assignment about favicon. Did you implement it? It was fiber. We will be glad to hear your opinion about fiber and threads in Node.js. There are no threads. There are no threads. You cannot create a thread. But what you can do is you can spawn a process. Okay. So typically, what the scaling model of Node is, if you have a quad-core processor, you create multiple instances of Node. You create multiple instances of Node. So 4 cores are there. You create 4 instances of Node and attach one instance to a core. So you will have you won't have any CPU idle, right? So you will have all the cores engaged with the same instance, with each unique instance of the application running attached to each and every core. They can share the same network port, right? So they can share the same network port. So this is how usually scaling is done. Fiber, what is it? A module? Any idea? What does it do? I have never used it. Okay. WordPress fibers and threads in Node.js. What for? Okay. Node fibers. Okay. Threads are little greener than our old ones, but there's some. I don't need it now though. Okay, fine. So I'll go through. Thank you so much. I'll go through it, and I'll get back to you by Monday. When we meet on Monday, we'll discuss about it. Okay. And in the meanwhile, go through the. Did you go through the favicon assignment I gave you? Did you go through it? So what is the speciality? What is special about it? The special about the favicon implementation is usually, right, when you take a when you take this application, when you take this application, whenever you try to make a request for a static resource, the resource will be read again and again and again from disk. Okay, the resource will be read again and again and again from the disk. So if you make a request for a static HTML page or a JavaScript file or anything, the resource will be read again and again and again from the disk. The way the favicon is implemented is, the first time when you load, the favicon contents will be loaded in the memory. But after that, for any request that is coming in, it will be served only from the memory. Right? It will be served only from the memory. Now you can try a similar implementation for your static module as well, right? But the only problem is your file system, your files will be maintained in the memory unnecessarily. So you have to decide what is the what do we call trade-off. Okay, so you want more memory, but you don't care about I/O. Then you read the file again and again and again. You find that I/O takes a lot of time, and you want to optimize I/O, but you you can afford more memory, then go for the cache in one shot. Okay, so if you look at the node modules, there is a serve fav icon module. If you look at index.js, right, you see here, this is where it gets interesting. Call max age, create, and send icon.body. Okay, so you load the icon and you return the icon.body. And how is the icon get loaded? Request response, response.set header, headers of key, object.keys of headers, where headers equal to icon.headers. So icon is an object. So let us look at what the icon object is. So module.exports equal to favicon, path comma options, and if the object is not there, it loads it, path.copy buff, right? If it is already there, it returns it from the memory. See here, if icon, return send request response and icon. Otherwise you say fs.read file path and function error comma buffer, you say icon equal to create icon of buffer comma max age, and then you call this. So this code will be executed only once during the lifetime of the application. This code will be executed only once, and once the favicon is loaded, it will not read the file again and again and again. It will not read the file again and again and again. But but the default app.js has this commented out. You see here app.favicon. Here is this one. So in case if you want to create your own favicon, you can create it and drop it in this particular folder. So let me try to do that. So ms paint file properties, reduce it to 16 by 16. Right, so we are reducing it to 16 by 16, and let me zoom in. Okay, so here we are zooming in. Let me quickly draw some random stuff. Okay, and take a fill color and fill this with this. And take another color and fill the remaining space. Fill whatever is the remaining space. Okay, so let us save this. Training, Spring People, day 4, Express, public, and here say I want to save it as an icon file. Okay, it doesn't matter. We'll say file icon.ico. Save the file. We have saved it, and now application crashed. Okay, so no such file. So it was looking for the favicon file. So the file is not there. Now reload it. Reload the application. The application is loaded. Now task manager. Reload the task manager. You see here now this icon. So it has served the favicon from our file, but the reading operation has already happened, right? The reading is already happened. You know what you can do? Let us rename the file. So let's go here. Express public favicon.ico. I will rename this to favicon2.ico. Okay, but still, if I go to Firefox and try to access the application, you will find that it is not showing favicon. Take IE for that matter. Localhost 1998 cd/as. You see that now? Right? So it has served. Even though the file has been renamed, this request was served with the appropriate file icon. Why? Because it already loaded it and cached it. Right? A very simple, beautiful implementation, but it can greatly improve the performance. Very little performance improvement, but something out of nothing. Right? So that's the idea. Rupa, is it clear? Alright, so you said something. Okay, right? Yeah, that's right. Now, what we will do, we'll wind up for now, and then we will meet on Monday. When we meet on Monday, we will see how to do some basic network programming and how to build components that emit events, right? Your own components that emit events. The way the request object emits events, then the way your server emits events, right? The way your file system object streams emit events. How you can create your own components that emit events, right? So we'll look into that. And then we will look at real-time updates. So how you can build applications that keep posting updates to the client in real time, right? So we'll look at two options. One is Node.js WebSocket, the other one is Socket.io. So I'll show you both of them, and then I'll show you scaling. So how you can scale your application, right? So that will be the agenda for the next 2 days. And if time permits, we will look at the other topics as well. Okay, so we will. Thank you. Right. So we'll wind up for now, and thank you so much. Have a nice evening. Yes. Next is Monday. Monday, Tuesday we'll have. Right. So have a nice weekend, and see you on Monday. About the fibers, it is briefly a plugin that allows non-preemptive threads. I didn't check it in depth though. That means we don't have to handle concurrency, but maybe we use multiple cores through it. I don't know yet. I'm just curious. Sure, Fabric. I'll go through it, and I'll have some updates on it. I haven't gone through it, but I'll go through it and we'll discuss about it. Thank you.